JBS USA is the second largest pork producer in the U.S., but according to a whistleblower's video, it could be number one in the abuse of pigs. The story next on the PETA podcast. Welcome to the PETA podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this behind-the-scenes look at PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. Here we talk to the key players at PETA and the movement and ask them about how animal rights change their lives and how they stay motivated to make the world a better place for the animals. On today's episode, a whistleblower documents animal abuse at JBS USA's East Fork Farm in Indiana. And it could be some of the worst footage PETA investigators have ever seen.
With images like the ones taken at East Fork Farms especially, there are certainly images there and animals' faces that I will remember for the rest of my life. And I'm sure several of these animals will make very lasting impressions on anyone who views the images. But you really do have to be able to use them to fuel your activism and your motivation to bring about change rather than let them drag you down.
Colin Henstock is a PETA investigator who got the video of that East Fork Farm in Indiana from an anonymous whistleblower. Some of the pigs are dead. Maggots stake their claims to their bodies. Others are living in pig waste and feces. Henstock says it is the worst he's seen in his 6 years at PETA, and even long-term employees agree. Indiana State Police have the case now, and all because of a whistleblower. At the end, we'll tell you how to get in touch with us if you've seen abuse and want to blow your whistle. In the meantime, my conversation with PETA investigator Colin Henstock on the PETA podcast. So, Colin, thank you for joining us here on the PETA podcast. And I don't know if I have seen a more terrible or more just horrifying video of animal abuse. That's what was going through my mind when I was looking at that video of the pig farm in Indiana. Why didn't you tell our listeners about that pig farm? Where is it? Who owns it? Why is it so bad?
The name of this farm is East Fork Farms, and it's located in southern Indiana near a little town called Brownstown. And your sentiment was certainly the sentiment of a lot of folks here at PETA. This was not a place that was on our radar. We received footage from an eyewitness there out of the blue. And I was the first person to see it here, and I was absolutely shocked at what was depicted. And the more folks I started routing this to, the sentiment was definitely the same with everyone. Everyone was just absolutely shocked at how awful this farm was.
This farm in Brownstown in Jackson County, Indiana. It's the East Fork Farms. It's owned by one of the biggest pork processors in America, the second largest, JBS USA.
It's not actually owned by JBS. They were supplying piglets who were sent to other farms to be fattened and then were eventually slaughtered, and those pigs' flesh was marketed under the JBS label.
Essentially, it's in the supply chain. The supply chain is owned by a big corporation in Brazil. So we're talking about an international effort here to mete out abuse.
The company as a whole is JBS SA, and they have a U.S. subsidiary, JBS USA, and they slaughter about 90,000 pigs every single day. The company as a whole is the world's largest slaughterer of animals. So it's certainly disconcerting that a random look at just one of the farms supplying them can look this bad. It certainly makes you wonder about the hundreds or thousands of other farms that are shipping pigs there as well.
Yeah, I've got a magnet, a PETA magnet on my refrigerator that says, I think it's Sir Paul McCartney who says it, is that if people saw how the animals were treated, I'm paraphrasing here, but if people saw how the animals were treated behind closed doors, there wouldn't be a single meat eater out there. And if you doubted that, all you have to do is go to PETA.org, see this video, and you won't want to have that morning bacon. You won't want to have that evening pork chop. It just makes you sick. So Colin, tell me, how did this video come to your attention again? Someone at the farm called you?
Well, for years, PETA has had a whistleblower program by which people who are concerned about treatment on farms and labs, anywhere animals are used and exploited, can send us information that the public should see in order to stop cruelty like this. And so this video came in to a PETA email address that we have publicly listed on our site. It's cidinfo@peta.org. And then it was routed to me. And a big part of my job here at PETA in the investigations department is to speak with whistleblowers from farms like this one and see what we can do to try to help correct a situation that they're bringing to our attention, or to bring the knowledge that they're passing on to the public's attention.
So this is a person inside. They took video of this. Tell me what they saw.
Well, this person has remained totally anonymous to us, but they sent in footage of severely injured pigs who are just languishing on the floor in what could really be described as a dungeon in this farm. There are mother sows who are confined in crates that are hardly bigger than their own bodies. Their legs are actually protruding through into other crates and are on top of other pigs and in the crates beside them. The pigs are forced to live surrounded by and just barely above their own waist, which in factory farms like this, the floors will have slats in them so that waste can be scraped or will drain through to a pit below. Apparently at this farm, the pit had either clogged or not been emptied for so long that the manure level was right up against the floor grates. So just right below the grates was their own manure. And in places, pigs who were urinating, the urine had nowhere to drain whatsoever. So they were just forced to just live in their own waste. And to top that off, piglets who had died, or other pigs who had died, had apparently been just left to rot in the aisles and in the crates. The pigs were forced to live right beside their piglets who had died and were covered in maggots and flies and roaches, just right beside where they were forced to spend their lives. It was just absolutely horrific footage.
A still photograph would have been plenty, but to see it as a moving picture in video live, someone, I imagine, must have had a phone or something. They took that video and they blew the whistle on the operation. They said, look at this. Look, people need to see this. The public needs to see this. Look at these pigs. And when you describe the piglets, we're not even talking about fully formed pigs. We're talking about babies. And in some instances where they're living in their filth. And there's one where the person who's taking the video has taken a piglet or a little baby pig and is giving it water, and the pig is drinking for 2 minutes. I mean, it's really something. And then that's the lucky one, right? Because there are other shots that show dead piglets who didn't make it, who are just rotting in the filth of the manure and the urine, and maggots are like living on their dead flesh. It's I just haven't seen anything that bad. And you said, in terms of how long have you been doing this, Colin, as an investigator?
I've been here for 6 years now, but some of the folks who viewed this here at PETA have been here for decades, and the reaction was the same. It's almost boggles the mind how someone could confine animals in these conditions and profit off of them, knowing that they were just surrounded and lived their entire lives in just filthiness and misery. It's just absolutely awful.
And once again, the anonymous whistleblower remains anonymous. You don't know who it is, but presumably it's some person who had access to the farm, was there, and may still be there. Huh?
Yeah, we don't really know. You know, PETA's in the business of exposing this cruelty where it exists, and we're very grateful that this person did come forward with this footage and gave us the opportunity to bring this to the public's attention. It's certainly disconcerting that this large, extremely profitable, giant corporation that eventually sold these pigs' flesh didn't take the time to audit this farm themselves, that it relied on an anonymous person having the courage to expose this farm. It kind of paints a picture of the industry as a whole, honestly, because even the best run farms are depriving pigs of a natural life and basically everything that they really want to do. But for places like this to exist out there for who knows how long, it could have been years that it looked this bad. It's certainly extremely concerning.
As soon as PETA got the video, we're going to get to more about the whistleblower and what the whistleblower represents in a second. But when you got the video, everyone saw it. PETA's investigation unit sprung into action. You went to authorities in Indianapolis. You went to the Indiana State Police. You filed a complaint. Tell me about that process. What happened?
Well, they have let us know that they've opened an investigation of the farm. First and foremost, after we got the footage, we started reviewing it for violations of state law. We also routinely consult with farm animal experts, so people who are professors, veterinarians, who study these animals and who can definitely attest that these conditions are not standard. These animals experienced pain and suffering. So we consulted them and passed their opinions along to the state police as well. PETA's actually also submitted a complaint to the state OSHA board to investigate the working conditions there, because in places the flooring system had either broken or collapsed or been removed, and workers were exposed to large holes in the floor that led to the feces pit directly below. And certainly on other farms, workers have died when falling into pits such as that. Workers have died from buildup of fumes in facilities like that. So we definitely look to every authority that we can in order to bring about change on the farm.
Now, what about the possibility of any violations of Indiana's anticruelty statutes? Does PETA see that the images rise to that level, or is this something that you think can be easily ignored by the Indiana State Police?
I don't think this can really be ignored. It's pretty indisputable evidence there on the video that these animals were subjected to intense pain and suffering. They were left without water. The pig that you mentioned before, her back legs were splayed out in a farrowing crate, and it appeared as though she wasn't able to move whatsoever. And the water faucet in the crate was such that she would have to stand and reach up in order to push on the spigot in order to cause water to come out. And she was in no shape to actually reach it. So in the video, the eyewitness triggers the faucet, and the pig actually drinks for 2 minutes straight without stopping, which is pretty much shows how dehydrated this pig was, and how desperate she was for water. So we do hope that Indiana State Police carries out an investigation of the farm and files any appropriate cruelty charges against the farm management and any of the workers who have played a part in confining pigs in these conditions.
Now, what did the owners of the farm, what did JBS USA say? Have they responded at all?
JBS did respond. They took action to ban this farm indefinitely from their supply chain. These pigs, this is what's called a farrow to wean operation. This is where mother pigs are confined and will give birth, and their piglets will be taken from them and shipped to other farms to be fattened before they're slaughtered. So these piglets would have ended up at potentially several other finishing farms, they're called. So JBS has indefinitely banned piglets from this farm from being a part of their supply chain. We hope that they take action to ensure that no other farms look like this farm in their supply chain. And we do hope that no other slaughterhouses in Indiana or the surrounding region fill in the void where JBS has left off and accept these piglets.
Yeah, but until we know that there's been any kind of change here, until we know that they've done something to make the situation better in terms of the conditions for the pigs, people who buy this meat under the JBS label, or in South America under the La Herenca, I believe it is, or that label from JBS SA, South America. All pig flesh is bad, but is there a sense that there may be something wrong or tainted about the pig flesh, except maybe by the cruelty?
Well, I mean, these pigs were living surrounded by their own waste, and roaches were crawling from that to the pig's food, and were actually in the feeders themselves, crawling on the pig's food. Rats were also emerging from pig feeders on the farm, and the amount of maggots that were surrounding the crates were just absolutely astounding. Yeah, depending on how long it's taken products from pigs who were born here to be processed and brought to stores, I would say there likely is a chance that pigs from this farm, that their flesh is still being sold by JBS. There's really no way to track it whatsoever, but I think the possibility certainly exists.
The meat of these pigs that have gone through this ordeal is in the supply chain. It'll be up to people to take care and make sure that they, not just avoid it, just avoid eating all meat.
That's right. And even in the best run farms, these are animals who will not have a good day in their entire lives. They're confined to crates or to crowded pens. They're really denied everything that is natural to them. And so even in the best cases, you would still be eating the meat of an animal who's really led a life that was unnatural and unhappy.
Here's one thing that gets me, that if you did not get this video, this would still be going on. I mean, we wouldn't know, PETA wouldn't know, the meat would have been processed, or the animals would have been processed and moved along the food chain, or the supply chain, then ultimately end up on people's plates, and we just wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's why PETA is extremely grateful to this whistleblower, and really anyone who cares about these animals, or even anyone who consumes these animals, should be grateful that whistleblowers like this come forward to bring these things to the public's attention.
We're at this stage in our American public life that the word or the term whistleblower has been elevated to the point where we need to know this transparency in all things, in not just in government, not just in democracy, but in our food. And the food business has really fought hard to make sure there is no transparency, so we can't see behind closed doors. And we really need to depend on whistleblowers to open our eyes to see, hey, this is how your meat is this is the process under which they go through.
Absolutely.
Without the whistleblowers, PETA gets a whistleblower, or what? How often would you say?
I would probably multiple a week, I would say.
So people are out there seeing it, they're sensitive, and you get multiple a week, so that you instantly spring into action and contact a farm? Or does everyone get the attention of this one farm in Brownstown, Indiana, or was this such a egregious case that it's a special case?
Well, this one, the footage that was sent in was certainly a component that we don't always have with whistleblower complaints. Mm-hmm. We certainly evaluate every complaint that comes in and look at the options that we have. In other cases, we might go directly to local or state or even federal law enforcement and alert them to things that have been brought to our attention. Other times we may write to companies themselves if we don't have a lot of information from a whistleblower, and bring situations to their attention and ask them to investigate. And depending on the situation, we'll give them a certain set of steps that we encourage them to take to ensure that the situation is resolved. The whistleblowers like this one, who send a lot of footage, or who are very cooperative and enthused about bringing about change, have certainly led to some of the most important cruelty cases that PETA has exposed.
Give me some examples of those cases, the cases that have really been aided by people who have taken a moral stance and have had video, have documented what they've seen, and have shared it with PETA as whistleblowers. Tell me like one or two other cases that maybe not a landmark case, but an important case in terms of exposing what happens in the meat industry.
Certainly a case that was early in my tenure here at PETA was in 2013. A whistleblower from Osborne Dairy Farm in North Carolina contacted us and let us know that the manure pit at the farm, similar to East Fork Farms, had not been emptied in some time, and the cows were having to wade through basically knee-deep feces in order to access their eating area. We worked with the whistleblower to document the farm, and we released footage from the farm. The buyer of the milk from the farm, Milk Co., which was a subsidiary of Ingalls, stopped buying milk immediately after we alerted them to the conditions on the farm. Soon after, the farm was cited by the state environmental agency and actually closed down as a result of that. So that was one worker who was disturbed by the conditions there and contacted us. And within a few weeks, the farm was shut down.
Wow. You got another one?
Sure. I guess another similar situation was Daisy Farms in Texas. Was a very large dairy farm, and a whistleblower sent us a large amount of video and photographs, and complained of calves who were visibly sick from pneumonia or lameness, were being left without any appropriate care. The barns, again, were extremely filthy. The animals were just kind of languishing in these filthy conditions. And so we actually sent a PETA field observer down there who worked on the farm and documented it further, and released an expose on it, and definitely alerted the general public to this brand, which is Daisy Sour Cream, that's on the shelves of most grocery stores in this country. What actually was happening at the farm where this sour cream was produced.
And I remember this story. It was a big story about Daisy Sour Cream. It was on the news, on television, in the papers. Did it result in a better situation for the animals? Did it result in a cleanup or a shutdown of sorts? What happened?
Well, we're not really sure about conditions on the farm now. It certainly resulted in a large amount of caring consumers being educated and hopefully choosing vegan alternatives to Daisy Sour Cream.
These are spikes that happen when a whistleblower's conscience is able to, make someone take action, take video, blow the whistle, but it doesn't necessarily topple the entire industry. It doesn't, you closed one farm you talked about, but the supply chain, the whole process continues. And unless we're vigilant, people always blowing the whistle, people always wondering, what happens behind those closed doors? How do you make the food process more transparent? Unless we do that, we don't know. We're in the dark.
That's right. We hope that these industries, when we contact them as a result of a whistleblower complaint, are a little more paranoid that their employees are concerned enough to go to PETA, and will take more responsibility, and will actually get rid of the bad actors at the farm, or will clean up conditions, or make some form of improvement. But really, there is just the element of exploitation and animal suffering that's just really built into these industries, even in the best cases.
And the best that people can do is, if they're consumers, to avoid eating meat and avoid dairy products, go vegan. And if you are close to a farm or working in a farm and you observe something, it's see something, say something, blow your whistle. The whistleblower, as I said earlier, in this day and age, especially right now in the current news environment, the whistleblower is exalted because they have seen something that everyone should know about. And when it comes to our food, we need to know what's going on behind those barn doors. So what should people do if they see abuse of animals, if they witness any of this going on in the food supply chain?
They can certainly contact the local authorities, the local police, and let them know. But they can also always reach out to us via email at cidinfo@peta.org. That's cidinfo@peta.org.
Okay. Well, listen, Colin, I appreciate your time and your work at PETA. One last question for you, though. How do you deal with it? After you saw it, you contacted the authorities, you did the work that's required of you as an investigator. But how do you as a person deal with this? Does it make you stronger in your veganism beliefs, or do you have to just cool out and watch Disney movies or something for a week? How do you deal with the just seeing these images?
Well, I certainly have. I have 4 companion animals myself who are always ready to cheer me up at the end of a day's work. But with images like the ones taken at East Fork Farms, especially, there are certainly images there and animals' faces that I will remember for the rest of my life, and I'm sure several of these animals will make very lasting impressions on anyone who views the images. But you really do have to be able to use them to fuel your activism and your motivation to bring about change, rather than let them drag you down into just being depressed and feeling as though the situation's kind of hopeless. You have to use them as fuel.
Right. I mean, it's their motivation, right, to see this. So whistleblowers, send your motivation to Colin, and he can help get to the authorities. But really, Colin, I appreciate your work there, PETA. Thank you for talking about the farm there in Indiana, and we'll get people to send anything to cidinfo@peta.org.
Thank you very much, Emil.
PETA investigator Colin Henstock on that whistleblower video that you can see at PETA.org. It's of the JBS USA farm at East Fork. That's the East Fork Farm in Indiana. It's truly disgusting video, but you've got to see it. And maybe you'll be inspired when you see abuse to blow your own whistle. Get out your phones, get a video, email CIDinfo, that's CIDINFO, @PETA.org. And to find out more about this JBS USA East Fork Farm case, a factory farm case of note, go to PETA.org. See it for yourself. And that's our program for today. Hey, you can contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok, that's EMILAMOK, or on ALDEF.org/blog, aldef.org/blog, or, hey, three's a charm, AMOK.com, my website. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by Carbonworks. Check them out on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. Join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.